Hello, parents. Welcome to the Masterful Parenting Podcast. I'm Ann Alvarez, parent coach, school counselor, and mom of two. Do you struggle with your relationship with your kids because you carry childhood pain? Do you get triggered by your child's behavior, become irrational, and maybe even yell at your children? Maybe you want to be a better parent, but you don't know how. Instead of repeating old patterns, you want to heal your pain, become more aware of your child's needs, feel connected to your kids, and learn the tools to communicate better so you can truly enjoy your parenting. If you are ready to heal your childhood pain, raise healthy, connected, and happy kids, and end the cycle of parenting with pain, then join me. Our kids deserve it, and we can do this. Let's go. Welcome, parents, to the Masterful Parenting Podcast. I am super excited today because we have Christopher Mahan. He is the author of a book and he has a lot of experience with teenagers. Welcome, Chris. Do you want to introduce yourself?
Absolutely. Thank you for having me, and it's so great to be here. Yeah, my book, if you can see it, is Parental Leadership. And get it up here to the camera. 7 Principles to Lead Your Teen in the Digital Age. And this book has taken 10 years to write. I have everything in here that I've been dealing with for the last 10 years with kids, from self-harm to motivation to helping parents become better leaders for their kids today so that the communication's stronger. And my whole intent with this book is to build a relationship between parents and teens and well beyond into their adult years with their children.
That's amazing. Amazing. Okay, let's start with the first question.
Great.
How can we as parents help our children so that they don't become victims and they don't do self-harm?
That's a great question. I actually talk about that in the book. And one of the biggest things is the labeling that we have put on kids over the years, or last probably 15, even 25 years, where you have the bully and the victim, and they both live in that idea of what they are, how they're supposed to respond. And a lot of times parents today don't realize that they're even doing it because society says, oh, your kid has ADD or ADHD or is this or that. And they begin to live in that label, that definition, that label. And it's very hard for kids to see themselves outside of that definition. And it hurts them because when life hits them, their immediate reaction is, oh, I can't do that. Or their parents will say, my son or daughter can't do that. So as they get older, they become victims to this idea that they're not good enough or not worthy enough for something. And that's what hurts so many kids' self-esteem, their motivation, and their self-worth well past their teenage years.
Yeah, exactly. So the labeling, they label themselves, right? And the
Well,
label,
parents do it. Parents will do it. And then they'll say, my kid has ADD or ADHD, or my kid's depressed, or my kid has social anxiety disorder. And the schools do it. And then they live in that label of what is defined by that specific diagnosis, if you will. And this sets kids up to fail. They become in a fixed mindset, not a growth mindset. And Dr. Carol Dweck does an amazing job of describing all of this in her book called Mindset, which I quote her in this book and talk about that. And so when it comes to victimhood, we've almost created this acceptance that kids are just limited, and we foster that in a negative way. Then when the kids become doubtful of their own abilities, their own strengths, we then say, well, oh, that's just because my kid has or my kid is, and we shut them down. So they become victims to not only themselves but to other people because of this early labeling, this negative labeling that we put on them through society, and it's a horrible thing.
yeah, so we as parents, we have to be aware that we're not labeling them and that we're not limiting them, right? Uh,
100%. 100%. Every kid has strengths and weaknesses. We all do. But we need to strengthen their weaknesses, enhance their strengths, and let them find out what their opportunities are, and then work on that versus just having them locked in this little box, if you will, of where we think they're supposed to fit. And it has become so common and so normal in today's society that parents just think, well, that's just what we're supposed to do. And then when a kid becomes 18 or 19 or 20 years old and they're too afraid to get a job or move out of the house, then the parents start to question the kid, and a whole nother set of problems start at that point.
Right, right. Okay, so we have to be really mindful of how with the messaging that we're giving our children, that we're not
100%.
labeling them, that we're not limiting them, right? And
Right.
then
100%.
how do we deal with self-harm and preventing teenage suicide?
Well, that's another thing. Years ago, I started a nonprofit called Crazy Eight Freedom down here in Florida to combat teen suicide. We lost over 12 kids in this area in that school year of 2012 through 13, right in there. And some of the cases were nationally known, others were not. But I had over 15 conversations post suicide with parents about their kids. It's a horrible conversation to have. And one of the things that we always talked about was the parents knew something was going on, but they didn't want to face it. They didn't want to look at it or address it. So as time went by, they ignored it, and then the kid would lash out, whether it was through self-harm, through cutting, or behavioral issues, or just becoming incredibly withdrawn. So one of the things that parents can do is be aware, again, be mindful of what your kids are doing. There are classes, there are so many resources out there today to help parents know what signs to look for, know how to have these hard conversations. I talk about hard conversations in my book, but if you want more resources from local hospitals, local areas where you live, there's so much out there because we're all trying to help these kids today. And you can find resources through local hospitals, your schools, national organizations, and there's information on how to have these conversations. You may not like what your kid's going to say, and you may not like what you hear, but it's a heck of a lot better to have that conversation than to speak about them in past tense, like I've heard of so many parents do. Have that conversation, talk to them, be open to what's going on with them. It is a different time today in digital age, and we have to be aware of that as parents to help our kids.
I totally agree. I in my work with parents, I find parents are really struggling with how to have these tough conversations. And I give them the words, first, like we have to touch our kid's heart. And then when we're having these conversations, we can't be judgmental. We
Right.
have to really make sure that we're open to hearing whatever they have to say, right?
That's one of the hardest things for a lot of parents. I don't know if it's because they just don't want to face it, or if they themselves went through it and they thought, well, I dealt with it as a kid and I can deal with it. Or perhaps they just don't know how to deal with it, so they ignore it. And that is the worst thing you can do when, again, there's so many resources out there today where you can have someone come in and help you or to start that conversation. But the biggest thing as parents is we have to be that leader to them. That's the whole point of this book, is leading our kids to be successful. Teaching them how to advocate for themselves is probably one of the biggest things that so many kids say do not know how to self-advocate and tell people what's bothering them in a way that they don't feel judged or shamed or feel guilty, and allow us as parents to listen to them, because we all have emotions. We all have the same emotional needs, regardless of age. We just have to be able as parents to hear that and put our own judgments aside and listen to our kids, because literally sometimes their life depends on it.
Yes, yes, for sure, for sure. And then are there some things that that are definite warning signs, like if kids are isolating themselves or if they're self-harming? What are some things that that are definite warning signs that we need to pay attention and have that conversation with our kids?
One of the biggest things, I talk about this in the book too, is immediate change of behavior. If you're seeing things that is really out of sorts for them, they're changing friends, they're not wanting to be involved as maybe they used to be, or one of the biggest obvious things is the clothes that they wear. If they're self-harming, they're going to, they're going to hide their sleeves or their arms. They're going to wear things that maybe, down here in Florida, it's really hot today. So if you see a kid in all the kinds of heavy clothes, long sleeves, maybe they're hiding something. Maybe they're just not wanting you to see what's going on with them. And really just knowing what's happening in their day-to-day life, having that, not to be like, get in there and like go through all their stuff, but you have to have these conversations and let them talk to you, but also observe what's happening. Is their behavior changing? Is the way that they relate to other people changing? Are they wanting to hide something? Are they sneaking off? Are they staying too much in the room and locking the door? If you suspect something like that, don't allow them to lock the door. Go in, sit with them, talk with them, ask them what's happening. And if you do find something where they're self-harming, don't attack them. That is a cry for help. It is truly a cry for help. This is when you want to go to a local doctor, a psychologist, someone, and get local help with them before it gets too late.
Yes, absolutely. Okay, that's really, really great. All right. I want to talk about the issue of a weak father. What is a
Oh,
weak father?
okay.
And
I came up with a week. I came up
on
with this.
change.
It's in chapter 6. Okay. And a weak father is a dad that is it's a generational curse. Okay. So as men, we are not allowed to show emotion. We're not allowed to express ourselves. And only the ways that we can is usually through anger. Okay. And there's a great song out right now by Dax, Dax. It's called To Be a Man. I heard it the other day for the first time. It absolutely encapsulates the idea in this book about what it is to be a dad and a weak father. A weak father is a person who feels worthless. They're emotionless. They are absent. They might be in the room, but they're emotionally not in the room with everyone. They get angry very easily, like they're just set off. And their actions sometimes look like children. So the worthless, emotionless, angry kid, that's the weak father. In the book, I have some little questionnaires and some different things that can allow dads to go, hey, I do this, or I don't do that, or boy, this really is me. Because we want to break this curse where boys to then men and young men feel like they cannot talk to anyone, that they can't say how they feel. And this is coming out more and more today with men as we talk about mental health, different things. In the song by Dax, Dax, it's an amazing song. Really, in that 4 minutes, encapsulates everything that I put in this chapter. But it's not only through this song in my book, it's in a lot of things. We're talking about this now finally, where weak dads are these guys that they don't know how to be themselves around their own family. In this, it's generational. So how they behave, their sons are going to behave. If they don't help their daughters are going to find a guy just like them. And so this bad behavior, this lack of emotion, lack of care, it carries over. And then the guys turn to alcohol, drugs, or they just leave. It's a terrible thing, actually. We really need to start talking about men's mental health, especially when it comes to the family.
Yeah, I love that. Like you have boys
Yes,
and
please.
I'm a boy mom. I have two boys, and I'm so aware of this, of changing this as a parent, allowing my children to really truly express their emotions and that all of their emotions are good.
It's very
And I think,
important.
right? Is that not how we change the generations of men?
It it is. And again, this is something that when I wrote the book, I started 10 years ago. I was studying the family from about 1900 to present. And generationally, different things have happened. But overall, the ability for men to actually express themselves in a non-violent or non-angry way has been shunned. If you act that way, then you're not a strong man. You're not masculine, right? And now we got this whole masculine, toxic masculinity is bad and everything. I'm not saying that guys should go out and be all like whatever, rough or whatever, but you have to be able to be a person and express yourself fully. That means the
Yes.
full range: happy, sad, upset, concerned. When guys can't do that, or people don't recognize when a guy's in that situation, that's when he really starts to withdraw. And that's when he's not the best dad he can be, the best husband he can be. And this is something that we really have to focus on for our younger generation so we can break this generational curse.
100%. I like the song. I listened to the song.
Oh,
It
good.
spoke to me.
Yeah,
And I totally agree. All emotions are good and they need to be expressed.
right.
Right. And especially with our young men and boys learning, growing up saying it's okay to cry. It's okay to get upset, to get angry, to get frustrated, and learning how to communicate that, right, in a healthy way. I think is so,
Absolutely.
so important. Yeah.
Absolutely. I'm a 70s, 80s guy. We didn't talk about that stuff when I was a kid. And when my folks went through divorce, and yeah, I wasn't even allowed to say the word divorce. I mean, I remember one time I asked, and I was pretty much put in my place. Like, I couldn't mention that word. So I was made to believe very early, whether directly or just, just what happened, that I couldn't talk about certain things. So if things were bothering me, I just had to bottle it up. And I turned to basketball as my outlet. I didn't do anything crazy, but it did emotionally stunt me a lot. And it took
Yes.
me many, many years to realize that. Now I'm at 56 years old. I'm finally realizing that, boy, for 40 some odd years, I was thinking all kinds of crazy stuff that wasn't true. And so I'm trying to help my sons, who are 21 and 19, realize that it's okay to be upset. It's okay to have emotion. And, it doesn't make you weak. It doesn't make you a bad guy. It doesn't make you, feminine, whatever these negative things that we say are, because you're human.
Yes.
And both my boys are going to the military. And I've told them, I said, when you come out, I don't care what you see or hear, you talk to me. I don't want you to become a statistic.
Yes.
And, that was a real hard conversation to have, the reality of where they're going, the Marine
Yes.
Corps. And, I wanted them to know that it's okay to come to me, come to their family, come to their mother, and tell us, hey, I saw some bad stuff. I'm really upset. It's okay. And that's important.
That's so amazing. That's so, so, so good. Oh, thank you so much, Christopher Mahan. I want actually to give you some time to tell parents where they can find you, where they can find your book, and maybe you can give a plug into your podcast as well.
Okay. Thank you.
Yeah.
Well, my book is on Amazon. It's on Barnes and Noble. It's on Google Books. It's on Apple Books and a couple others, but mainly Amazon and Barnes and Noble. And it's been out just for a couple months, but it's been 10 years in the making. I have a weekly podcast every Wednesday on Spotify called Lead Your Teen, as in teenager. And it's a pre-recorded, so it's not a call-in, but we talk about everything from current events to different topics, everything to help the parent-child relationship become stronger. That's the whole focus of the podcast. I do have a YouTube channel, which is Lead Your Teen Podcast. It's on YouTube, and there's some videos on there, different things. And just every week, I'm trying to come up with something new and to talk about to help parents become aware of certain things, whether it's trafficking or what new drugs are out there they should be aware of, what kids are doing, to just what's happening in schools around the country, so that they can be aware of it. And then when there are issues within their family, maybe we can, have a chat about how to address those things. So my podcast, Lead Your Teen, is all about the parent-child relationship and making it stronger.
Wow, that's amazing. I love what you do, Christopher. Thank you so much.
Well,
Um,
I appreciate being on here. I really do.
Thank you so much. And parents, I just want to do a little recap. I always like to recap. So we have to be careful with labeling our kids because they internalize that label and then they see themselves as victims. We got to change their mindset about that. We have to be aware if there's any changes in their behavior or anything that they're doing that's different. And then we have to have the tough conversations with them to find out what is going on. Be mindful of the warning signs. And if we want to raise strong fathers, we have to allow our boys to express emotion. So, so important that we say to our boys, emotions are all good. Tell us how you're feeling about things. So that's the
100%.
takeaway. Yeah, thank you so much. That's a takeaway, parents. Thank you so much for joining us today. We will have Christopher on again, hopefully
Awesome.
soon. And thank you so much, Chris. And parents, you know I love you. We will see you in the next episode. Take care.
Thank you so much. Take care.
If this podcast inspired, blessed, or changed you in any way, I would love for you to share this with your family and friends on your Instagram page and tag me at Masterful Parenting. And join my Masterful Parenting Facebook page or DM me for more parenting support. and I will meet you here real soon. Remember, be relational with your kids, and you will see a change. Love to all you parents out there. Let's change the world one parent at a time.